Hey guys, welcome to part 4 in our Future of Work series. My name is Rose and I am one of the founders here at Rebel Leader Academy. So today, what we're going to do is talk about the solution. Now, we have been on quite a journey in this 4-part series, talking about everything from what's coming in terms of automation, artificial intelligence, robotics, all the way through 3D printing. And we've been taking you kind of step by step on this journey with us to where we are today, which is talking about what's the answer, right? What's the solution to all of this? Where are we going? So I'm going to set up our slides here so we can officially start. Let's see, there we go. And where we've been so far is we talked about in episode 1 the threats that are facing our economy and personally our jobs. Like I said, things such as all of the tech and automation and things like that that we are moving into. You know, depending on the estimates, it's up to 60% of current jobs are scheduled to be automated or augmented in some way, which is going to leave a large swath of our population kind of going, not quite sure what I should be doing now or what I can be doing now. Then we went into the context a little bit. So I gave you an idea of where the whole idea of a job came from in the first place, how we got here as a species, why it is that most of us feel like we have to have a job. And then we went into the future in part 3, talking about where is this all going in kind of a broad sense? Where are we headed to as a species? So today I want to dive into the solution for you personally, and then the broader solution for where humanity is going. Excuse me. So we're answering 2 questions today. Number 1 is, where is this all going? Where are we going as a species? Why are we even doing all of this tech stuff? Is it good? Where are we heading? And then number 2, what does that mean for you specifically? So in this greater evolution of things, what are you going to be doing? Where is your family going to be? And even further out, what are your children going to be doing? What's their work environment going to look like? How can you prepare them to enter the new economy? So to recap a little bit, to understand those questions, is that as a species, we have been moving from this dynamic where as an individual you did everything. Back before we started to specialize into hunter-gatherers and tradesmen, we went from really doing everything for ourselves, this subsistence kind of existence, all the way to being able to just do one thing. And where we find ourselves today is almost at that one thing transition. We've specialized to the point of having these things called jobs. And we've moved out of trades, so we're no longer, a shoemaker or a baker or whatever. We've actually specialized even further into let's say you're a doctor, but you're this very particular kind of doctor. Or maybe you're, some kind of a coach, but you're a very particular kind of coach. So where this is heading is that we as individuals are going to shift the paradigm of looking outside of ourselves to say, okay, which one of these job boxes do I really want to fill? And kind of which one is the best that I can mold myself into? And really changing up to a dynamic where we from the inside are going to be telling the world who we are, what we're here to do, and who we want to work with. Of course, the onus then is on us to figure that out, right? We're not going to have an external system telling us, oh, by the way, this is what you should be doing, which in a sense is easier. It's easier for us to process rather than having to go inward and say, okay, hold on, I got to figure myself out so that I know what I'm going to be offering. So it's coming all the way down to specialization, to the point of just being you. You are the specialist, and it's just you that can do this thing. And then we're moving from this dynamic of having no choice to having limitless choice regarding who we want to be in the world and what we want to do. So, if we were way back in the day, a hunter-gatherer, you were kind of like, all right, you were born and then you were either a hunter or a gatherer, right? That's the end of it. Or you later on, you were born into a trade, you were born into a family, and you are the blacksmiths, and you're going to be apprenticed and trained in this trade. So it's really the world telling us what we were going to be doing. And, a huge part of the globe is still under that, except the pressure tends to come from our families, right? So now you might be born into a family where they're like, you come from a long line of doctors. You're really supposed to be a doctor or a lawyer or a banker or whatever the case is that people are pushing you into. And then on the other end of the spectrum, sometimes we're born into families where we have very little expectations of ourselves. So our families, they're like, unfortunately, they're like, you're never going to be a doctor. You're never going to be a lawyer. You're always going to fill in the blank, be working at a lower tier sort of a job in terms of our economic system. And that's just as bad. So we have this dynamic of outside pressures telling us what to do, to now moving into a paradigm where we're going to be having limitless choice. And that in itself provides a whole host of problems for us, because most of us, we don't have to think that way. And we're not wired to look at limitless possibilities and be able to narrow them down to choose. We are much, much better at just saying, okay, you know what? Give me like a small set of options. Give me 3 options. I can do that. But if you give me 6 or more, 10, 20, forget limitless options, like how the hell do I narrow that down? How do I even start? So this is a huge transition for us as an individual, being able to say, you know what? I have limitless choice. And in that, what do I want to do? And then an even bigger shift right now is that we're moving out of this idea that we have like all human jobs. So things that are, don't have a lot of creativity and are very labor intensive and are very the same thing, repetitive over and over again. Right now we have humans in those positions. And those positions tend to be where we're unhappy. I mean, really nobody likes doing the exact same thing every single day. It's part of our nature to need variety, to need a bit of uncertainty. Yeah, we need certainty and security, but there's a bit of us too that really needs that adventure and needs something to shift up, something to be different, something where we're growing, that we're not just, I always use the automation of a riveter, right? We're not just there like putting in the same nuts and bolts every single day, all day long for 8 hours. Like that's just, it's not reaching our human potential for that individual. And we end up miserable in those jobs anyway. And I mean, luckily for us, in terms of the bigger picture, a lot of those jobs we're just eliminating. We are creating robots, we're creating artificial intelligence that can take over those jobs that I call non-human jobs. Right now, humans are filling those positions, and we have to figure out how to transition them. But really, essentially, they're the jobs that people don't want to do. I mean, do you really want to be washing toilets, or would you rather have a toilet that is automated and can disinfect itself and clean itself, and you never have to worry about it? I mean, for most of us, the answer is, yeah, give me the automated toilet. I don't want to do that. Nobody wants to do that. The only reason we do it right now, and we have people in those positions, is for money, because they need the job, they need the money. And there's nothing wrong right now with being in that position, but those positions are going away. So we have to truly consider that. And what we're moving into is being able to offer people the opportunities to do jobs that are truly, truly human. Jobs that people love, jobs that they wake up thrilled every day to go into and be a part of and create. So when we look at things that aren't going away, we have the spectrum of jobs that need our creativity, that need our ability to truly strategize, and that need our ability to connect with each other on an emotional level, to have empathy and compassion and a high emotional intelligence. Those are the jobs of the future. And that's really a beautiful thing, because we as humans, those are the jobs that we would naturally gravitate to anyway, because they're the ones that are the most fulfilling to us. But now it's going to be on us to say, well, what is that job going to be? What am I here to do? And that's where it gets a little bit tricky. So to explain a little bit more about the greater evolutionary shift that's happening, is I like to say that we're moving into what's going to be the age of experience. So up until this point as a species, we have really done what we needed to do to survive as an individual and as a collective, right? We do what we got to do. You put your nose to the grindstone. You just get it done. You make the money. All of this rhetoric that we have is all scarcity based. It's all saying we don't have enough and we have to fight to get what we need, which that has been the truth of our existence this whole time. Our entire time on this planet has been fighting, just like every other species. You know, that's very Darwin. We have to fight for our resources. We live in scarce resources. And all of our instincts, all of our drives have been designed to survive in those circumstances. But we're moving into this new age that's not going to be scarce. And I know there's a lot of news and pundits and everybody else that's always talking about doom and gloom. And that is one option for our future. But there's another one that is just as, if not more, possible. Because when you look at the statistics, we're trending that way. So when you look at things like global violence, or you look at things like your individual probability of you dying a violent death, for example, or of a horrible disease or things like that. If you look at the entire planet and take the statistics, we're actually in the best era of life ever. You have the least chance of being a victim of violence, of dying a violent death, of dying from a horrible, horrible disease young, and of being in a global conflict. Even though we have these, yes, we have these global conflicts, but you have to think about how many of us there are compared to how many of us are suffering violence. And I'm not in any way diminishing those experiences for the people that are in those circumstances still right now. And what we're moving out of all of those dynamics the more and more you and I work together. So statistically, we are living in the best time ever to be a human on this planet. You have the chance of living the most fulfilling, successful, peaceful, loving, happy life ever, despite what the news is telling you. So, given that, we are moving into this age of experience. And what that means is we're moving out of all of this scarcity dynamic. We're unlocking what it means to truly be human and figuring that out. Because if we can put all of our scarcity thinking and instincts behind us, the need to fight, the need to fear, the need to hoard resources, if we can put all of that behind us and really move into this next age of abundance and say, okay, we have enough resources. We're doing a poor job of managing them, but we do have enough, and we can create enough for all growing billions of us. So if that's the truth, which it is, and we can figure out systems to move into that, then we have the possibility of unlocking something inside of ourselves as individuals and as a collective that we've never had the opportunity to unlock before, because we haven't been able to put our energy into anything other than survival. So if we now have all of this energy and we are moving towards fulfillment and happiness and asking individuals, what are you really here to do? What lights you up? Where can you offer your highest service? Wow. Like, that's something we've never had the opportunity to ask ourselves before. We've never looked at a generation of children and said, what problems do you want to solve when you grow up that are based on your own strengths and values and convictions and everything else? Well, how can we bring forth the best in you? And if we did that, which we are moving into, it's a whole different thing, isn't it? That's a whole different paradigm. We don't even know how to think yet under those conditions and that structure. So the age of experience is understanding how to move into that reality, how to actually enjoy life, how to live your highest potential, how to give to others when you're in that high space, when you are happy. It's a much different experience giving to others and being of service to others when you yourself are in that space of fulfillment than when you are just doing it for money. You're just doing it to survive. You're just dealing with people, you know? Even if you have some kind of maybe you like your job, but there's some aspect of it that's still grating. It's still like, I have to be here. I have to do this, right? And that's what's changing, and that's what's so exciting. So that's what the age of experience is all about. It's about making the best experience here on earth with your life that you possibly can. And to do this as a collective. and to have systems that support that new way of being. So if you've been following along, we at the Academy, we always teach on these 4 levels. We teach multidimensionally, and that's because we have 4 different aspects of our world that we exist in and that we have to moderate and learn and teach and grow. So if you look, this is our theory of limitless evolution, which everything here at the Academy is based on this theory. And it's about transitioning and how we transition from this dynamic of scarcity to this dynamic of abundance. And the reason that we talk about technology so much is because it is our technology that is allowing this shift. It's actually making it possible for us to completely change our dynamics, how we live with each other and how we live and exist in this world. So on the left side, where you see 1, 2, 3, and 4, those are just illustrating the different levels that we work on. So, the physical level, that's all of the technological shifts. That's our resources, our food, water, energy, all of those things. It's at that physical level. And that's the level that technologies can shift and help us shift. We can use technologies to, like, let's say vertical farms and aquaponics, for example, to produce more than enough food for us in very small way, like very small land, for example, doing it inside of a building with very small amounts of energy we're working on. But anyway, we do have tech that can transition us so that we have more than enough energy, water, food, shelter, all of those basic things, which, by the way, is a first in human history. We've never actually been able to do that, and now we can. So that's a huge shift, and it's the aspect of technology that's allowing for that abundance that is allowing all of the shifts above it to happen. So then we look at, on top of our physical world, we have the individual, right? So we have our psychological and emotional world. And that's where I talk about our instincts, our trigger responses. When I say we're set up to live in a world of scarcity, all of our fear responses, our hoarding behavior, our collective, let's say on the level of a country, our collective of my country needs this and kind of screw yours, that sort of a dynamic, that's all in that psychosocial world there. Then we go one level up, and that's what I call the cognitive world. These are our laws, our dogmas, our politics. These are kind of the rules that we tacitly agree to live by. Nobody's born and consciously says, yes, let me read all of the rules of my country and of my culture and just check them off and say, yes, I agree, I agree, I agree. No, you're indoctrinated into them just by being a child, being a human in your culture. And these get ingrained inside of us, right? But they come from this outside dynamic. I mean, somebody made up all of these rules and laws and everything else. And if somebody made them up, by the way, the beauty is that we can change them all. And that's where we're heading. But that's what makes up this like cognitive world dynamic. So you can think about if it's a law, if it's some kind of external rule, cultural expectation, if it's a religious rule or expectation, that's all under that set. And the important thing to remember with that set is that because we have been in that pyramid that says scarcity, competitive instincts, right? If we live in a world of scarcity, we have to compete. It's where all of our competitive instincts come from. Well, humans created all of the rules in that cognitive world. That's all of our imagination creating rules to live by, right? Rules to interact with each other. Our economic system, our political systems, that's all in that tier. And that all came out of our thinking from scarcity, right? So we have scarcity, our internal thinking structures, and then we externalize those internal thinking structures into these systems. So that's the cognitive world. And then on top of that, you can look at if you believe in any kind of energy or spirituality or soul or something that some higher power or and it doesn't have to be a supernatural higher power. You can say, something like energy, right? That's at that level. So whatever animates us, whatever creates things, this world that we live in, this experience that we have. That's at that top level. And so what we can look at is how each of these levels are transitioning because we have this foundation of abundance. So let's move over to that final pyramid over there, which is the abundance pyramid. So on this pyramid, we are pretending that we have already made the transition. So we're pretending that we have everything we need as a species. You were born as a child. You never have to worry about anything that you actually need to survive. Food, shelter, energy, all provided, right? You get it with ease. This is not something that you have to put tremendous amounts of energy into. So if you look at and pretend we're in that state of being, now what comes out of us? Well, interestingly, what comes out of us is our cooperative natures, our empathy, our emotional intelligence and willingness to connect and wanting the best for each other. The only time humans don't want the best for each other, by the way, is when we're fighting for resources, is when we're in scarcity. Hi, Chris, I see you there. Thank you for joining us. So when we are in that cooperative instinct set, we actually want to help each other. And that's incredible. And that is where we're headed. So out of abundance comes more cooperative instincts, more togetherness. And on top of that, now we think about, okay, if we're in this space internally, that we are happy and we're moving into fulfillment, what comes out of there, you think? Do you think it's going to be the same kind of politics and economics and everything that we have running the world right now? Or do you think it's going to be vastly different? Do you think the people making the rules and making the laws and thinking globally, do you think we're going to have very, very different systems, healthcare systems that come out of that? The answer is of course. Of course it is. You're in a totally different mindset. You're in a totally different emotional space now that you're thinking, okay, if I was going to create a system globally to distribute goods and services, to have people live their best lives, to keep people healthy, now what? What are these systems? And the thing is, there aren't enough of us yet, personally as individuals, that have shifted over to this abundance-based thinking system to make those rules, to make those laws, to make those new ways that we are going to be interacting with each other. And that is incredibly important to remember, is that we need enough of us as individuals in that space, not thinking from a place of scarcity, not wrapped up in where am I going to, get my next meal from? How do I pay my next bill? Where do I get the money for this? That's where our energy is going right now. And most of the world is still caught up in that. So we need more people to get out of that, out of that dynamic. That's why our goal number one in the academy is get out of work, get out of this scarcity cycle, because I need you to get out of that scarcity cycle to be able to create what's going to rule the world in this new dynamic. That's what I need from you. And I love that the academy transforms people's lives individually. I love that it moves them individually into this space of abundance. But what we're really going for, guys, is that we have enough of you living from this space of abundance within yourselves that we can come together as a community and have these global conferences so that we can start re-envisioning from this new space. What does that actually look like? What does it look like to be cooperative with everyone around the world? What does it look like to have a system of healthcare that actually works for everyone around the world? What does it look like? What kind of education systems do we need to create so that from the time we have tiny little people, from the time we're bringing them up, we start asking them, who are you? We start exploring, gosh, you're unique. You're amazing. Every human being is amazing and unique. And I cannot even tell you how much I believe that. That is the core of who I am. You are unique. You are amazing. And the world has put a whole bunch of shit on top of you that if you didn't have on top of you from the beginning, you would already be the greatest at whatever it is you're meant to do, right? So it's about transitioning you into that space, but more importantly for me, it's about working collectively with everyone that's made that transition so that we can create those new systems I call systems of abundance, versus systems of the scarcity that we're living in now. And then why I say we're moving into this dynamic of limitless choice is if you look at the top of that pyramid, number 13, if you think about what's the goal of us as an individual to be here on the planet, in that scarcity pyramid, the goal is to survive. It's what we've been doing all along. We survive, we survive, we survive, right? It's what all animals do on this planet. But we have the opportunity to actually move energy, consciousness, the life experience from just being embodied to survive, to being embodied to explore and experience. Guys, that's so different. It's so huge. It's going from life having a singular purpose of survival to life literally having limitless purposes and expressions and goals. And that's you, by the way. You are an expression of that life. And the more you step into that abundance-based pyramid, the more you can actually experience life itself shifting through you, having a unique experience, having this opportunity to be like, wow, this is amazing. Like, it is amazing being here. The amount of pleasure that's here, the amount of enjoyment, the amount of fulfillment that's here now is incredible. And it's at our fingertips. But the caveat to this, and this is a serious, serious caveat, is we have to make that transition and that leap from that scarcity-based pyramid to that abundance-based pyramid. And are we going to make it? I have a lot of hope. I have this academy. I've got you wonderful people listening to this. I have a tremendous amount of hope that we will make it through this transition. Let me say, it's going to be challenging. It's going to be challenging because that middle pyramid that goes between scarcity and abundance, the external shift that has to happen, the internal transitions from fear to love to cooperation that has to happen, to acceptance, to understanding. The external manifestations of that shift in terms of new laws, new systems, new programs, new spirituality, maybe, all of those things, new education systems that has to change. I don't know. Are we going to get there? Are we going to get enough people understanding this transition? Enough people on board to make that shift happen? And do it in time, because we have this background ticker going, right? Of sustainability, of planetary environmental destruction. We've got this in the background and it's circling, right? And for many of us, we're so caught up in just our individual survival, our money problems, our bills, our this, blah, 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 that these things that are going on in the background that are just little ticking time bombs, we're not even paying attention to yet. But the moment we step into that abundance-based pyramid, we are going to pay attention to those things and take them seriously and fix them, because we can. We are so creative, imaginative, clever, unbelievably powerful that we can fix those things if we come together, stop worrying about all the scarcity crap that's around us, and have enough emotional clarity and energy to actually deal with those problems, right? We call those we call them first world problems at the moment, but they're not, right? They're global problems. They're not just problems for the few people who have the luxury of being over in that abundant space and thinking about them. Nope, they're everybody's problems. So we have that kind of environmental time bomb ticking in the background, but there's another one, and it's internal. And that is, do we have the capability within ourselves to get over our scarcity-based triggers and move into something that's very different for us, something that is going to be beautiful but uncomfortable in the beginning, which is, globalized thinking, understanding that we are all the same, we're all human, we're all dealing with the same problems, we all face the same internal issues, right? So the real problem underneath all of this is that if we take all of these brilliant, powerful, emerging technologies that we've been talking about and pair them with our scarcity-based instincts, we will probably, the likelihood of us killing ourselves and the planet, very high, very high. We're going to keep hoarding. We're going to keep fighting. We're going to keep pretending that we can't create abundance for everybody and that the technologies don't exist. And we're going to use those technologies that could create abundance to create destruction. Because, you know, we have that power within us. That's what we do when our thoughts are from that scarcity pyramid. Now, when our thoughts are from the abundance-based pyramid, we use those technologies for very different things. We use those technologies to actually create an environment where, for the first time in human history, peace is possible. And that's not something that's kind of a nice, that would be nice, or it's esoteric or ethereal in some way. No. Peace is actually possible when we create physical abundance for everybody, because we have nothing left to truly fight over. We'll have disagreements, we'll have issues, but we won't have anything to kill each other over. Because that kill instinct, that I want to destroy instinct, comes from needing to protect our own, who we believe is our own. That's huge, guys. Okay, so I'm going to move on from there. So who's going to make these transitions, right? The beautiful thing is that we as individuals, we fall into every tier of this pyramid in terms of our interests, our strengths, what we want to do. And it's all about, we are going to be the transitioners from scarcity to abundance for the world, right? And I always say it's the rebels. Why the rebels? Because we're the ones that aren't afraid to try something new. We're the ones that aren't afraid to not conform, right? We're going to be the ones to lead. We're okay with having limitless possibilities. We don't want to be boxed in. We want something different, right? So it's kind of like asking, well, okay, great. What type of rebel are you? Which part of the transition are you going to be a part of? Which one do you want to be a part of? What lights you up? What excites you, right? For some of us, we call them our inventors. What lights them up is the technology, right? If you've been watching this series, what lights you up is hearing about the artificial intelligence and the robotics and everything else that's coming, and, you know, the cool sensors and what it can do. Like, that thrills you. And you want to be part of creating physical abundance for people. You want to be like, yeah, you know what? I want to end hunger, and I'm going to create the tech to do it. Or I want everybody to have enough energy and heat and water and everything like that. Those kind of things, they just light me on fire. That's what I want. Well, if that's the case, you're an inventor rebel. You're working on that foundation tier that's really, really helping everybody move, right? Super exciting. So those are our inventors. Who are our alchemists? Our alchemists are the ones, I like to say, they want to change minds and hearts. So when I talked about we need internal transitions to happen, we need to move out of our fear, more into our love and cooperation, all of those kinds of transitions, you know, I'm not good enough, who am I to do this? All of those things, those crazy dynamics in our head that's born out of scarcity. And hard-coded in our evolution and our genetics, right? Our brain's set up for scarcity. So who are the people that are going to help us transition from that mindset and give us the techniques, give us the tricks to retrain our systems to be able to handle abundance, to be able to live in that state? Those are our amazing alchemists. So they show up as teachers, as psychologists, things like that. That's their thing, right? Love our alchemists. Then we move on to our masterminds. So if you think about your political leaders, your judges, your even religious leaders to an extent there, these guys, these are the masterminds. They're interested on the sociological level of our transition. They're interested in going, what would a new economic system look like if we were all abundant? What kind of laws or rules would we want to have on each other that we would just say, yeah, these are good things to live by? What are those? What do those look like? These are our masterminds. They're thinking global. They're thinking global systems, even no longer at the level of a country, like, how do we shift the economy of this country or that country? No. They're thinking, how do we create a global distribution system so that everybody has the resources that they actually need, so that they don't have to live in that scarcity pyramid? What are the morality, the virtues, the values that we're going to hold as a species, right? How do we create rules around that? How do we re-engineer an education system that really honors the individual from the beginning and brings out the best in them and moves them, instead of moving them towards a job, moving them towards a way to support themselves, moves them toward a vision for their life that gives them the most fulfillment and has the most impact? These are mastermind rebels. Those are the kinds of questions that they are going to be helping us transition. And then we have our guru rebels, right? So these guys, they're more, if you think about our people that like to talk about consciousness, our spiritual leaders, even a lot of the people in the, let's say, the New Age movement, they're talking about even one step back. Even if you take a step back from our physicality, right? And we say, where do we think the universe is going? Like, where is all this going? Why are we really here? And what are we doing here? These are guru rebels, and they are helping us transition out of thinking from a survival-based mentality that our goal is to survive to our goal is limitless. So they are moving us and educating us in that transition. So those are our guru rebels. And why this is all amazing is that at these 4 tiers, all of these different types of rebels, and rebels show up in all shapes and sizes and personality types. People think, oh, I'm shy, I can't be a rebel. Well, that's not true. Do you live your own life? Are you doing it your own way? Do you question things a lot? Do you love to learn? All of these things are being rebel. They're your rebel archetype, your rebel nature coming out. It's in the questioning process that you come out as, being like, oh yeah, I guess I kind of am a rebel, or, I have sort of done my own thing my whole life, just quietly, maybe. Not all rebels are this like boisterous in your face. I've got, 3 different color hair and a billion tattoos. Like, that's cool too. Love those guys as well. But I just want to pay mind that if you're looking at this going, well, I don't know if I'm a rebel, just think about that. Like, do you kind of march to your own drummer there? Do your own thing? Yeah, that makes you a rebel. Do you question the systems a lot? Do you go, why? Why are we doing this? Why is this way? Yep, that's your rebel coming out. So we need all kinds of rebels, is what I'm saying, to make this transition happen, both for you personally as you go through this, but also globally. So what does it mean? We always say at the Academy that we like to train rebels to be revolutionaries. And what we mean by that is that you take this natural, nonconformist, original person that is that individual rebel, right? And you find out, what is their mission? We've talked a lot about mission. What is their mission? Who are they? What are their strengths? What do they really want to do? And who do they want to work with? And when you start doing that, when you start gaining your following, doing your thing, helping people, making that impact, moving us from scarcity to abundance, that's when you become a revolutionary. Like, that is the difference, is that you go from your own scarcity pyramid and dynamic into this abundance sense of self, into this abundance state of mind and reality, and then you go out there and you help other people do it too. Now you are a revolutionary. And we put the little R in those parentheses because in this transition that I just described, we're not revolting against anything. This is not, oh, we need to overthrow the government, overthrow the systems. It's not that at all. We're just over here building the new systems that everybody's going to transition into if we are going to successfully make this transition with the new technologies that are emerging, super powerful. Remember, it could go the other way. And our environmental issues. Those 2 things could just throw us off course. So the more people we get over to that abundance-based pyramid, thinking about these things, having the energy to put towards these things and make these kinds of impacts, the better. So you become an evolutionary the moment you start to really have that ripple effect and go, all right, I am helping people become abundant. I am helping people make that shift on all these levels. Whether you are an inventor and doing it in the tech way and actually providing people with things, providing them with more food, more shelter, all these things. You're an alchemist, changing their minds and hearts, teaching them how to live more cooperatively, how to live happier and more fulfilled. Or you're a mastermind up there, really thinking about these larger global systemic issues, going, wow, what are these new politics going to look like? What is this new education system going to look like? That's you, or you're up there on the guru level, going, what does this all mean? Where are we really headed, and where do we want to go? So it doesn't matter what kind of rebel you are on that. The moment you transition over to that system of abundance, that tier of abundance, and you start helping people, you truly, truly become a revolutionary, because you are creating that new evolution. You're moving people into that space. So anytime you see that word revolutionary, that little R, that's exactly what it means. We're not revolting against anything. We're just creating the brand new systems over there that people are going to move into. So I want to leave you today with just an invitation, because over in our Rebel Leaders group, it's our private Facebook group, we have a lot more in-depth discussions around this. We have a lot more one-on-ones to help people make that internal transition and learn more about it, learn more about the 4 different rebel types, all of that good stuff. So if you are called at all to go, this is kind of interesting. I'm liking this global view. I'm liking this larger shift. And I really want to start thinking about my personal place in this. You know, what type of rebel might I be when I really start thinking about it? What's the work that I want to do? What kind of impact do I want to have? What am I good at? When you start asking yourself all those questions, that's the time, guys. Jump over into that group, because that's where it's happening. And you know, I also just want to say thank you. Very, very much thank you for watching this series, because it's incredibly important, not just for your own life, but for everyone on this planet right now. Making this leap from rebel to revolutionary, making this personal leap from maybe working someplace where you are unhappy or feel like you're wasting your energy, but you have this greater calling. That's exactly what's going to help us shift as a globe into this new state of abundance, into using our technologies wisely. And there's nothing more important that you could do with your life right now at this time in human history. So thank you again, and I can't wait to see you guys in the group and help you figure out, what kind of rebel are you? What do you want to do? What's your mission? Thanks.